So I thought it would be interesting to show kind of a tool that I use, which is something that people may not have thought about actually using to plan out their flight planning, especially if you are planning to go VFR and not planning to do any type of IFR work or have the ability to do IFR, your conditions and really internally visualizing, there we go, we'll say that, the conditions of the airport you want to travel to and the distance in between are very important. Not only do you have to look up in the air and figure out where it's going or how the weather is going locally, you really need to spend the time to plan out the trip because things can change dramatically from one point to another. Even over a span of 10, 20 miles, the weather can be very different than where you're currently setting. So let me give you an example. Buddy and I were planning out a flight to Virginia Tech's airport. So I'm just going to use ForeFlight. This is normally the process I go through, is go on ForeFlight to kind of get an understanding of what this looks like currently. It gives you a great overview of the radar, and then when you do the flights, you could do your briefing. And for longer trips, I like to mesh this up with 1-800-weather, so the weather briefing service there. So I'm out of Richmond Executive there, and we were planning a little hop over to BCB, there we go, which is about 139 nautical miles there. And the weather over here is not too shabby. Let's pull that up. Let's go to the METAR, and it looks like 320 degrees, 14 to 23 knots, so a little windy. Be honest with you, a little windy there. It was better a few moments ago, but looks like the wind has moved a little bit more gusty, I guess you would say. Visibility 10 statute miles, clear below 12,000. So when he is at his house looking up in the sky, he's saying, wow, it is a nice day to fly. It's a little windy, but I flew with James before there in his plane, and it shouldn't be too bad. 36, they've got heat on the plane. I should be all right, right? Some pilots might even get kind of swayed into thinking that, hey, you know what? It's not too bad. It's within my limits. Now, 23, that is quickly bordering my limits. So right there, I would probably want to wait till later the day if conditions improve. Forecast is just that. It's forecast. It's a very educated guess on trying to figure out what's going on through automation. So with the forecast, you can see we're kind of in between the 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. change there. Looks like 14 to 20 knots. As you can see, we're right at around 9:30. So that's fallen within there, and then it's going to calm down a little bit sometime in between, if not up till 5 p.m. Eastern time there. So I would probably, just on this information, push to a little later in the day, kind of recheck, see what's going on. That way my passenger doesn't get sick and we're not just, bouncing around in the airplane. So you got to think about the airplane, you got to think about that. You've got to think about your visibility. Notice that the visibility is changing in the forecast as well. You don't get that nice 10 statute miles. It's well within visibility range that I'm comfortable with, 6+. But still, you want to keep that in the back of your mind. This is currently where you are departing from. So that's great and everything, but you need to move out and you need to check these other airports. Now, go through that. One of the other things that I do, of course, is check the weather over here. This is, of course, not a full mission briefing at all. This is just a cool little tool that's coming up that I wanted to show you. So this one has some gusty wind. It's not the wind that we were seeing over in Chesterfield or Richmond Executive there. You got those gusts that are moving from 11, Down here it's a little bit easier to explain, 11 knots to 18 knots. So it's it's a little bit more rough over there. Broken 3,000 feet is cloud cover currently, and then you got overcast 3,800. Don't fall in that trap where you're seeing this and saying, it's not too bad, because you also got to figure out elevation of the airport. This is going into a full mission briefing real quick, so I'm going to try to expedite this. But I just want to show that it's difficult to explain to your passengers, especially if they're looking up in the sky right now and saying, hey, this is a beautiful day, let's go. Trying to give them an idea. So again, you can do all of this. You can go onto the briefing, you can file your plan, you can get ready to file your plan by doing the briefing. You can look at other imagery. You can also, use your electronic flight book or whatever resources you have. Again, 1-800-WX-BRIEF. That website is brilliant. I love that. I actually like that sometimes more in my briefing than I actually do with ForeFlight. I know, crazy, right? But here comes the tool that is interesting and helpful to really the pilot and the passenger, kind of understand what's going on there. If you have Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you have the ability to download that for Xbox, I think for PC, well, this is what's running on the PC here. It is a really helpful tool to help connect the dots to your passengers. Your passengers, in more instances than none, are people that don't fly or do not have a pilot's license. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they need to be reminded, hey, weather changes dramatically and is dramatically different between 2 points. It's kind of silly to us, but honestly, if you're thinking about, hey, let's chance it, number one, you really have to question yourself when you're talking, talk like that. And number two, it's good to have all the tools and have a visualization, and Microsoft Flight Simulator is pretty helpful on that. They have, not endorsed by Microsoft Flight Simulator or anything like that, but in their development software notes that they have put out, they've really put a lot of time in researching how to implement weather visualizations into their system. And it does a really good job. A lot of times I take a look at Flight Simulator and try to match it up to what's going on. So, I do all my pre-flight planning, get all that down, and then I jump into Flight Simulator to see what it actually looks like. So this is current conditions over in the airport that we were going to fly to. The Virginia Tech Airport is what we call it. And let's see if I can go in and zoom in. There you go. Bravo, Charlie, Bravo there. And this gives a little bit better idea of, hey, I know I'm not a pilot, and I know that, my pilot friend that's going to take me out there, or was thinking about taking me out there, told me that the conditions, are maybe not the best, but I just don't understand, because I keep looking at this sky and I keep saying, hey, when are we going to go? So shooting a screenshot of this, if you have the ability to, or even a video, will kind of illustrate the point. You are pilot in command. You make that call, and you are responsible for the safety of yourself and your passenger. So you want to, use all the tools and make the recommendations both to yourself and to your passenger if you should go or not to go. And if you still feel uncomfortable on the pushback and you really feel like you're getting to that spot where you don't think you should go, but man, your passenger really wanted you to go, one of those get-there-itis type things that are actually pushed by the people that are going to be passengers in the plane and not by yourself. If you're starting to kind of falter, this is useful. I've used this before to kind of show, hey, this might not be the best time to go right now. We've got clouds up here. We've got some, gusty wind. We've got snow falling out of the sky. And especially if you have the ability, within your computer, I don't know if it's the other ones, to show, icing especially if you get up there, and start flying around in this plane. Since you have moisture in the air, since you've got the temperatures, so on and so forth, since you've got conditions for possible icing on this thing, you can start your flight there. And this is, if your buddy is particularly wanting to go for some odd reason, which, well, I mean, it's not really an odd reason. You can start flying, right? And Microsoft Flight Simulator, in particular, I'm pretty sure that X-Plane does the same thing, but it shows the accumulation of ice on your aircraft. Yeah, this isn't going to work with a phone and a joystick, but you get the idea. It'll show actually icing development on your surfaces and interior as well. Well, exterior, but from the inside you can see it. That's what I'm getting at. Snap a picture of that. Explain what's going on with the plane. Explain how it's going to change the way that your plane is controlled, and be an advocate for yourself and for the safety of your passenger and yourself. I wouldn't recommend showing them a picture of a crash, but it really helps, and it gets you out of a sticky situation. It kind of gives a picture to the person, literally, of what's going on at the location that you're trying to, get to. And having the ability to work with the passengers and have a better understanding will get that nervousness reduced. So please do it. Be safe, especially in the winter. We've got rough times where we have to make some tough decisions about not going for safety. And please, by all means, use this. If you don't have used this, literally draw a picture. Try to explain it to your passengers, and don't feel compelled to go when you're on the border. Trust your gut on this one. All right, thought it was important, thought I'd share. Be safe out there. Till next time, guys. See you.